Palace gates may look calm, but behind them, a storm is brewing. Prince William has quietly redrawn the royal map, and the first to feel the shift. None other than Duchess Sophie's children, Lady Louise and James. Their royal titles changed, their futures uncertain. What's behind William's bold decision, and why now? As the next king steps forward with his vision, old promises are being tested, and royal roles are being rewritten. Is this a sign of modern progress, or a quiet betrayal of royal blood? Buckle up, because what you're about to hear might just change how you see the monarchy forever. The quiet shake-up begins. Something unexpected just happened inside the royal family, and no one saw it coming. Behind the polished walls of Buckingham Palace, Prince William has made a quiet move that sent waves through the monarchy. With no big speech, no official statement, and no public ceremony, the titles of Lady Louise and James, children of Duchess Sophie, are changing. What once seemed like a certainty is now being redefined, silently but surely. For years, Louise and James lived their lives in peace. They weren't front-page news, they didn't chase headlines, and they were rarely seen in public unless it was a formal family event. Their mother, Duchess Sophie, had always made it clear. She wanted them to grow up as regular children. But that calm has been disrupted. The royal household is restructuring, and it starts with William drawing the lines. It's not about titles, it's about the role you play, a royal insider told a close tabloid source. William is thinking long-term. He wants a team that's small, smart, and totally committed to public service. This isn't just a small family update. This is a shift that could shape the future of the monarchy. It's the kind of quiet drama that has everyone whispering. Because if Louise and James can be quietly repositioned, who else might be next? Now, if you're wondering what exactly Prince William is trying to do with these title changes, you're not alone. Let's break down his bold new vision and why it's making the rest of the palace uneasy. Prince William's bold new vision. Prince William isn't waiting for the crown to act like a king. He's already making choices that signal the kind of monarch he intends to be. One major piece of that vision: a smaller, more efficient royal family that puts service above status. In William's eyes, royal titles should come with real responsibility, not just prestige. In the past, being born into royalty was enough to guarantee a title and all the benefits that came with it. But William sees that system as outdated. Too many royals, not enough roles, one palace source put it. His strategy is about trimming the excess and focusing on those who genuinely serve the public. This move is also about rebuilding public trust. The royal family has faced years of criticism, from Prince Andrew's controversies to Harry and Meghan's exit. William wants to prove that he's listening, and he's starting by showing that titles won't be handed out just because of bloodlines. In this new model, Lady Louise and James are the first example. Even though they're grandchildren of Queen Elizabeth, William believes their low public profile doesn't warrant formal royal roles. He respects their privacy, one insider added, but he also knows perception matters. But this transformation didn't start with William. Long before these recent moves, Sophie and Edward made a personal decision that set the tone for how their children would be raised. And it was all about peace over power. Why Sophie and Edward chose a quiet life. Years ago, when Lady Louise and James were born, Prince Edward and Duchess Sophie made a very different choice from other royal parents. They decided not to raise their children as working royals. That meant no prince or princess titles, no flashing cameras, and no public duties. Instead, they wanted their children to enjoy as normal a life as possible. We try to bring them up with the understanding they are very likely to have to work for a living, Sophie once said in an interview. From the beginning, she wanted Louise and James to grow up grounded, respectful, and far from the pressures of royal fame. Their home at Bagshot Park became a peaceful escape. Their kids went to regular schools, had hobbies like horse riding, and lived without royal security details at every turn. Most people didn't even recognize them at public events, and that was exactly how Sophie wanted it. But now, this quiet life is being interrupted. William's changes suggest that the royal family's modern direction may not leave room for Edward and Sophie's approach. And while the family once agreed on this peaceful path, it now seems like that understanding is quietly being undone. And just when we think things were agreed upon, it turns out Queen Elizabeth herself played a role in this decision. So what exactly did Her Majesty want for Louise and James? The next part of our story reveals it all. A royal childhood redefined. Lady Louise and James's quiet upbringing. From the very beginning, Lady Louise and James were raised far away from the golden spotlight of royal life. Prince Edward and Duchess Sophie made a firm decision to protect their children from the harsh expectations and scrutiny of the monarchy. While technically born into royalty, they grew up in a modest home at Bagshot Park, with school schedules, horse riding lessons, and calm weekends that resembled more of a countryside family than royalty. As Duchess Sophie once said, they are being brought up knowing that they are very likely to have to work for a living. One of the main reasons Sophie and Edward chose this path was their wish to let Louise and James enjoy a normal childhood. Unlike William and Harry, who were thrust into public roles early on, these two were shielded from royal obligations. Their public appearances were rare and calculated, often reserved only for milestone family occasions like trooping the color or royal weddings. Sophie's method wasn't about rebellion, it was about realism. We try to bring them up with the understanding they are very likely to have to work for a living, she repeated in several interviews, quietly pushing against royal tradition. Despite being in the line of succession, both children lived without their HRH styles. This wasn't a denial of their identity, it was a redirection. Their mother wanted them to build careers, passions, and futures separate from their last names. Louise's passion for horses and carriage driving, shared with her late grandfather Prince Philip, is a prime example of a young royal discovering herself on her own terms. James, on the other hand, has maintained an even lower profile, though insiders claim he has the makings of a responsible and grounded future public figure. This deliberate parenting choice now stands at odds with William's evolving monarchy plan. While he seeks to tighten the circle, Sophie's approach seems to quietly resist, insisting there is value in royal bloodlines being raised with modern values. As we move from childhood into decision-making adulthood, it's time to ask, what happens when the protection ends and royal expectations creep back in? Let's now look at how Lady Louise approached her coming of age and the surprising choice she made. Lady Louise turns 18. When Lady Louise Windsor turned 18 in 2021, she was given a choice, one that many young royals never receive. She could begin using the title Her Royal Highness Princess Louise of Edinburgh. But instead of rushing to claim her place in the public eye, Louise made a decision that spoke volumes. She said no. Quietly, without media buzz or palace fanfare, she chose to keep her life just as it was. Calm, quiet, and away from royal duties. This wasn't a case of rebellion or disrespect. It was a continuation of the lifestyle her parents had built for her. Royal watchers had long speculated whether she would one day become a working royal, but Louise's decision confirmed what many had guessed. "She's very grounded," said one palace aide, "and she's seen firsthand how hard the royal spotlight can be." That decision, while deeply personal, made a loud statement in William's evolving vision. Louise had already shown signs of maturity and independence. She had participated in Queen Elizabeth's funeral, walking with dignity and respect alongside other senior royals. But unlike her cousins, she never used her presence to seek attention. She stood quietly, representing strength in a way that didn't require a title. Her love for horses and shared interests with Prince Philip showed she didn't need the spotlight to carry his legacy. Still, many wondered what would happen next. Would she change her mind later in life? Would a royal event or family need draw her into the fold? Those close to her believe she's content with her current life, one focused on education and self-growth, rather than charity appearances and royal handshakes. Her choice aligned perfectly with her upbringing, but also raised quiet concerns. If she won't step up, who will? Now that we've seen Louise's choice, we have to ask, what about her younger brother? The Earl of Wessex hasn't reached that crucial age yet, but all eyes are on him. What path will he choose when the time comes? Let's dive into his story. James, Earl of Wessex. At just 16 years old, James is already at the center of quiet royal conversations. While his sister chose the private route, the question now looming is whether James will do the same. Known for his calm demeanor and deep respect for family traditions, James has appeared more and more at public royal events in recent years. From Easter services to the Queen's funeral, he has stood tall beside his parents with grace far beyond his age. Unlike some of his cousins, James rarely speaks in public. In fact, many royal fans would struggle to recall his voice. But his presence has been increasing. And that's no accident. Prince Edward, now Duke of Edinburgh, has reportedly been gently preparing James for a potential public role. This has sparked new debate inside palace walls. Could James become one of the few next-generation royals who actually take on working titles? Palace aides and insiders say the family is split. William's plan is clearly to slim things down. But the idea of having a calm, loyal, well-prepared young royal like James in the mix is quietly gaining favor. One former royal advisor even said, James may become the unexpected secret weapon, uncontroversial, polished, and deeply respected. But that possibility depends on one thing: whether James wants it. His path is complicated by his sister's decision. If he chooses to accept a title and work for the crown, it would send a very different message from Louise. Yet, it could also mark a new balance. One child choosing public life, one choosing privacy. Both paths valid, both reflective of modern royal life. So now we've seen how the children were raised, how Louise stepped back, and how James might soon step forward. But what does all this mean for the royal family's bigger picture? And what role does Prince William's vision play in the shifts to come? Let's explore that next. Prince William's vision. Prince William isn't waiting for the crown to begin shaping the monarchy. In the past year, his quiet moves and subtle decisions have drawn a new boundary around the royal family, one that's leaner, more focused, and, above all, more relatable to the public. He's not interested in a sprawling roster of working royals. Instead, he wants a dedicated few. And that change has already impacted the likes of Lady Louise and James, whether they asked for it or not. William's vision stems from both public opinion and practical need. After scandals like Prince Andrew's fall from grace and the ongoing fallout from Harry and Meghan's departure, the British public has become more critical of how royal money is spent. William knows the monarchy must feel worth its cost. It has to evolve, one royal aide shared. He wants to prove the monarchy can be efficient, modern, and not a burden. That means fewer people on the royal payroll, and more expectation on those who remain. This vision directly affects extended royal family members. Louise and James, while once protected by distance, now find themselves outside the invisible line of William's inner circle. It's not personal, insiders say. It's strategic. William is believed to want only himself, Catherine, and their children to represent the future of royalty. The rest, even with blood ties, will be seen as private citizens. But this redefinition brings emotional weight. Duchess Sophie, a loyal and graceful figure in royal circles, has long upheld the quiet dignity of her family. Now, her children face a reality where their place is unclear. As one royal commentator put it, William isn't removing titles. He's removing relevance. That's far more cutting. And yet, it may be necessary. Prince William may be making bold moves, but not everyone behind palace walls agrees. Quiet tension has begun to rise, especially as Duchess Sophie watches her family drift from the royal center. Let's now step into the emotional weight of this shift, and how one mother is gently fighting back. Duchess Sophie pushes back. Duchess Sophie of Edinburgh has always played her role with grace. She's never courted fame, never given scandalous interviews, and never overstepped her bounds. But today, she stands at a quiet crossroads. As her children's future within the royal family begins to fade, Sophie is beginning to speak up, not through press releases or public outbursts, but through subtle reminders of promises made. Years ago, Queen Elizabeth herself supported Sophie and Edward's wish to raise their children away from royal pressures. It wasn't rebellion. It was a plan backed by the late monarch. Sophie has gently reminded others of this fact, according to palace sources. The Queen understood, she once said in an interview. She wanted them to have a chance to grow up without the pressure. But now, with William in charge of the monarchy's future path, that agreement seems forgotten. What makes this harder for Sophie is how quietly it's all happening. There's been no official announcement cutting Louise and James out, but their absence from key events and the silence around their roles says enough. Sophie, who stood strong beside the Queen during her final years and proudly represented the crown during Charles's coronation, now watches as her family is left in limbo. "It's like they're being written out without anyone admitting it," said one family friend. Behind closed doors, Sophie is said to be urging clarity. If Louise and James are to live as private citizens, then fine, but they deserve the support and freedom to live that life. If they're expected to serve someday, they should be prepared with respect and guidance. What she resents most, insiders suggest, is the confusion. "You can't raise children for one life, then ask them to live another," said one longtime aide. Sophie's voice may not be loud, but it is steady. She's defending not just her children, but the very balance between royal duty and personal freedom. And in doing so, she may be forcing William and palace officials to reconsider just how quickly they draw their lines. As tension builds behind the scenes, there's one person who now faces a life-altering decision. James, once just the quiet younger brother, now stands at a royal fork in the road. His next steps may determine whether Sophie's efforts were in vain, or whether he redefines what it means to be royal. Let's look closer at what lies ahead for him. The royal crossroads. James, Earl of Wessex, may only be 16, but his future is already a royal topic. As he inches closer to adulthood, the spotlight that once passed him by is slowly turning his way. When he turns 18, James will have a choice, one with deep personal and public consequences. Will he embrace a royal title and step into the monarchy? Or will he walk the quieter road his sister chose? James's upbringing was tailored to offer him options. His parents didn't push him toward royal duty, but they didn't hide the truth of his lineage either. "We're raising them with the idea that they'll have to build careers," Sophie said. But that freedom comes with pressure. Unlike his cousins, James hasn't yet declared his intentions. And now, with Prince William cutting down the number of active royals, James's silence is gaining attention. Some insiders say James is being gently guided toward duty. His recent presence at royal events suggests a soft training. Others argue he's being set up as a just-in-case royal, someone who could step in if needed, but who may never receive the full support that comes with the role. He could be very useful, one royal aide admitted, but only if the system allows it. This decision could impact more than just James. If he accepts a role, it may preserve a link to the Queen's legacy, one that many in the public still admire. If he steps back, it might signal that the royal family's younger generation is truly shifting away from traditional roles. Either way, he stands at a monumental crossroad. Whatever James chooses, it's clear the era of automatic royal paths is over. Now, it's about choice. And that choice comes with consequences, not just for him, but for how the royal family is seen moving forward. The late Queen's quiet blueprint. When it comes to the royal family, Queen Elizabeth II's word was often final. But what many people don't realize is that her vision for the monarchy's future wasn't about expansion. It was about quiet balance. Behind palace walls, Her Majesty always preferred calm over chaos and stability over spectacle. And when it came to the lives of Lady Louise and James, she had a clear, measured view. Let them grow in peace. The Queen supported Edward and Sophie's choice to raise their children without the HRH titles, offering them the space to live ordinary lives while still honoring royal tradition. She saw the value of a lighter touch. One former palace aide explained, "She knew not every royal needed a crown to serve." It was a long game, one based on dignity, not display. During her Platinum Jubilee preparations, sources claim the Queen had quiet conversations about the next generation. She believed William and Catherine would carry the monarchy forward, but she also expressed hope that younger royals like Louise and James could one day choose how they serve, on their own terms. It wasn't an instruction, it was a blessing of flexibility. But now, under a new reign and shifting priorities, that blueprint risks being lost. William's focused strategy may be modern, but some say it's moving too quickly, pushing aside the nuance Elizabeth spent decades building. "The Queen played chess," said a longtime historian. "William is playing speed chess, and pieces are falling fast." With the Queen's guidance fading into memory and William pushing the institution forward, the balance between legacy and innovation becomes harder to maintain. But how does the public view all this? Are people in favor of a leaner royal family, or do they miss the familiar faces being pushed aside? Let's take a look at how the nation is responding. Public opinion. As the royal household subtly shifts, the British public is watching, with mixed feelings. For some, Prince William's efforts to modernize the monarchy are not only welcome, but long overdue. A slimmer, more transparent royal family feels appropriate in today's age of accountability. "We want fewer handshakes, more honesty," one voter told a local news outlet. And William seems to be delivering just that. But others aren't so sure. For decades, the public had grown fond of familiar names, figures like Sophie, Louise, and even young James, who appeared poised and respectful at royal events. Their presence brought a sense of continuity, a link between generations. Now, as they quietly fade into the background, some royal fans are left uneasy. "Why remove the ones who have done no wrong?" asked a royal blog comment. It's a sentiment shared more often than the palace may like to admit. Polls reflect this split. While younger audiences applaud the idea of trimming the royal budget, older citizens, especially those who admired the Queen's more inclusive approach, feel the change is too abrupt. They worry that cutting too deep may leave the monarchy without its core support network. Adding to the uncertainty is the media's role. With every change, headlines swirl. Are Louise and James being phased out? Is William tightening his grip too soon? These questions stir debate not just in tabloids, but around dinner tables and social media feeds. The monarchy is no longer just a tradition. It's a daily conversation. With public opinion divided and royal traditions in flux, there's one more perspective that must be explored: the monarchy's long-term plan. If William and Charles are thinking strategy, how does all of this play into a future where the crown survives in a modern, skeptical world? Let's look at the strategy behind the headlines. The strategic shift. Though King Charles holds the throne, Prince William is already steering the monarchy's future. Together, they're shaping a long-term strategy that aims to secure the royal family's place in a changing world. But make no mistake, this isn't about preserving the past. It's about building a new identity from the ground up. Key to this strategy is clarity. In recent years, the public has grown increasingly critical of blurred lines. Who's working royal and who's not? What's taxpayer-funded and what isn't? Charles and William aim to fix that. "We need sharp lines and sharper roles," one palace staffer noted. That's why the circle is being tightened. It's not about personal judgment, it's about organizational structure. In this future, only core members, William, Catherine, and their children, are expected to carry the public-facing load. Everyone else, including Sophie and Edward's children, will likely lead private lives, free of royal duty but also free of public expectation. The message? You're either fully in or respectfully out. This clean break approach has risks. It could alienate loyal royal supporters or cause internal frustration. But it also creates room for transparency, fewer controversies, and more focused engagement. "It's like running a company," said one royal correspondent. "Too many voices, and the message gets lost." William is simplifying the mission. Now, as this strategy unfolds, we arrive at the heart of today's story. With titles uncertain and expectations shifting, what does the future hold for Louise and James? Let's close with a look at what may come next, and why it matters so deeply. The road ahead. As the dust settles around the changing royal landscape, Louise and James stand on the edge of very different futures. They may not wear crowns, but their stories will shape public memory of this moment in monarchy. How they respond and how the palace treats them will echo far beyond their titles. If James chooses to step forward at 18, he may take up the mantle his parents gently avoided for him. He could become a working royal who bridges tradition and modernity. If not, he may pursue a private life, building a career on his own merit, respected for the choice to live freely without ceremony. Louise has already chosen that path, for now, but her presence at family events and her natural poise suggest she remains connected to the legacy. Whether as a private citizen or a quiet royal force, she carries forward values instilled by her mother, her grandparents, and the late Queen herself. In the end, William's streamlined monarchy will either be remembered as a bold evolution or a mistake that fractured quiet unity. But for Louise and James, the question is more personal. Will they be remembered as part of the crown, or as the first generation to step away from it, gracefully? Only time will tell. So what does it all mean? Louise and James now stand at a royal crossroads, with their futures hanging in the balance. Prince William's vision is clear: a leaner, modern monarchy. But at what cost? Duchess Sophie's silent battle for her children's place in the royal fold has only just begun. As history writes its next chapter, the quiet ones may soon be forced into the spotlight. Will tradition survive this transformation? Or are we witnessing the royal family's most dramatic shift yet? One thing's for sure: Buckingham Palace will never be the same again. Stay tuned, and don't blink.